Okay. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 2025 HBS Entrepreneurship Summit. Woo! We're super excited to have you here today, especially because this is our re-inaugural Entrepreneurship Summit. There hasn't been an event like this at HBS since pre-COVID, so we're really excited to have this relaunch again and have you guys all here. So if you haven't taken a seat yet, take a seat, settle in. We're super excited for a full day of programming here with you today. Special shout out to our co-heads of Summit, Lindsay and Ankita. You'll meet them in a second. Woo! We would not be here without them today. I know it's been months of work. Their leadership and vision is why we're all here today. So we're super excited to kick things off. And so the HBS E-Club, we're one of the largest student clubs here on campus, which is a great testament to the entrepreneurial spirit here at HBS. I'm Jing, I'm one of the presidents of E-Club, and I'm here with Hunter, my co-president. And so we were excited to kick things back off here and bring everyone together from both HBS, RCs, ECs, alums, as well as community leaders. So we have a lot of student representation from all across the Boston area. We have people flying in from all across the nation. So excited to have everyone come here today. Hopefully you'll meet, a new friend, a connection, a potential entrepreneurial venture. And so with that, I'm going to turn it to Hunter here to kind of kick things off for our first keynote.
Awesome. Thank you, Jing. Again, so grateful to Lindsay and Ankita for all they've done. Planning a full-day conference with no roadmap is no easy feat, and they've done it with aplomb. And we hope and expect this to be the foundation and the groundwork for a number of great summits and conferences in the years to come. To me falls the pleasure of introducing our first keynote. First, our moderator is Patrick Chung. He's the managing GP of Xfund, which is the VC fund that was founded in partnership with the Harvard Engineering School. He was formerly a partner at NEA, and he's a rare triple Harvard alum holding not only an MBA from HBS, but also a bachelor's from the college and a JD from the law school. And then, of course, the man of the hour is Aravind Srinivas, the CEO of Perplexity. Aravind was born in Chennai, India. He holds a bachelor's and master's in electrical engineering from IIT Madras, as well as a PhD in computer science from UC Berkeley. And Perplexity, in case you've been living under a rock for the last few years, is an AI-powered conversational search engine that's been taking the world by storm. Aravind co-founded Perplexity in 2022, and in the few short years since, Perplexity has achieved over 600 million monthly queries and a $9 billion valuation with investors, with investments from the likes of Jeff Bezos and NVIDIA. And yes, if you are wondering, I did use Perplexity to help write this intro. Aravind, who's going to be on stage in 1 minute, a heartfelt thank you from all of us for flying across the country to be with us. I know we're all really excited to hear the insights you have to share from the trenches of company building in the Gen AI world. Please welcome me in joining Patrick and Aravind.
Aravind, thank you so much for flying all the way across the country to be with us.
Thank you for having me here. It's actually my first time at Harvard, so very excited to be here.
So we are all intensely interested about Perplexity, about AI, about the future, but I wanted to back up a bit and just talk about your origin story, and then we'll talk about Perplexity, and then we'll talk about the future. Unlike many founders, you are actually an academic. We sit here at Harvard, one of the great universities of the world, whose mission is to seek truth, create knowledge. Can you just trace your history from undergrad to through academia?
Yeah. Firstly, the cultural roots for me was to always seek knowledge even more than wealth. That's how we grew up back in Chennai in India. And even now, I would say my parents are even more proud of my PhD than Perplexity. They still use Google quite a lot, so.
Oh, no.
So that tells you like what they truly care about. And so a lot of people kind of think like academia and business are like two separate things. There's a lot of things you can learn from academia and apply it in business. So in IIT, I did my electrical engineering degree, which, you know, I know now I'm feeling good about it, but then back then I always felt like, oh, I should be in computer science, like all the cool kids are in computer science, so I need to also like get into all these coding competitions. And I tried my hand at competitive coding, wasn't good at it. Johnny is my co-founder, he's also here. He was actually world #1 at IOI, and I think he represented Harvard also at ICPC. So there are like a lot of better people even back then. So I never made it to the ICPC World Final. So
Is that your biggest regret?
Well, not anymore. Like okay. You know, but definitely wish I was good at it. I tried my hand at a machine learning contest with literally zero understanding of what machine learning even means. Just trying different algorithms from the scikit-learn library. And I essentially brute forced my way into winning the contest. But
was it a college contest?
Yeah, it was within the college, just open to all the students. And I think Yahoo probably sponsored that event. And but the money wasn't the important part of it. It's mostly like, it was fun to actually try something new where there were no guarantees of correctness. You just had to try a bunch of things. And
what was the contest? I mean, it has echoes of what you're going to be doing for us this afternoon, which is a pitch competition that you will judge.
Yeah, correct. Contest was like they had a bunch of photos and wanted to classify, but they wouldn't actually give you the photos. They would give you a bunch of numbers that they featurized, and you had to like predict on an unseen test set. And no deep learning or neural nets back then, just simple algorithms, and that's how I got started in ML.
Wow.
And I did an internship, and they asked me to build a recommender system for a healthcare website.
Did you win the contest?
Yeah, I did win the contest.
Okay, so you were an electrical engineering undergrad. You entered a machine learning undergrad contest. You won it, and what did that say to you? I majored in the wrong thing?
Actually, electrical engineering is very easy to onboard into ML, even easier than computer science. Because I was already familiar with concepts like convolutions and like signal processing, all these low-pass, high-pass filters. And so like all the Python programming and NumPy, all this stuff came pretty intuitively. Whereas for computer science friends of mine, they were more focused on competitive coding. They would always write for loops for every single thing. That's not the best way to do ML. So I think that definitely helped me a lot to get started even sooner. So I don't regret the whole electrical engineering beginnings of it. And so I got my internship, I learned more.
Where were you an intern?
I was just doing an internship in India at a startup. I finished it pretty fast, like building a recommender system. That's when someone told me, hey, look, all this linear algebra is cool, but you got to go study neural nets. It doesn't work, but you still got to go study it. And so that's how I started watching all these online lectures. Andrew Ng's lectures on YouTube. And then someone told me, you know, Andrew Ng is cool, but there's a British guy who speaks really slowly, so watch it at 1.5x. His lectures are even better. That was Jeffrey Hinton's lectures. And so that's how I learned all my basics, and then did my research, and luckily got an internship with Yoshua Bengio, one of the Turing Award winners. He wrote me a letter, and that's how I got into grad school at Berkeley. So that was my start from undergrad to coming to the US. Once I got in here, I was lucky to get internships at OpenAI, DeepMind. That completely humbled me a lot because I actually thought I was good, and then people around here were way more intense, hardworking, way better at actually not just coming up with new ideas, but implementing them and getting them working, or writing all the code to scrape data sets, everything end to end that's happening here. So that taught me a lot and like pushed me more towards like entrepreneurship, not just like coming up with new ideas, but it's very essential that you actually show them working in practice on a practical data set.
Was that the, what was the kernel that, because you were on this academic track, you actually completed your PhD at Berkeley.
Yeah.
And so were the internships the one that said, okay, that kind of dislodged you from that default path?
Yeah, so completion, yeah, like I know what you're trying to say. Like being a dropout is cooler than completing the PhD.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying, just for the record, I'm not saying that.
But let me see. I think by the time my advisor was pretty open-minded, so I went and told him, look, I know I came here to do a PhD in reinforcement learning, but basically what happened was I got an internship at OpenAI, and I had like some 5 or 6 very fancy reinforcement learning ideas, and Ilya Sutskever, the former chief scientist there, literally told me all the ideas suck. He told it to my face exactly like this. And obviously I was very upset. Wait, that nobody usually tells it this way, so maybe he's actually right. And then he took me to a board and just drew 2 circles, one big circle and inside it a smaller circle. And so the big circle is generative unsupervised learning, and the smaller circle is reinforcement learning. And you don't need anything new. You just need to do this in sequence and throw a lot of compute at it and train on all of the internet. And then you'll build general intelligence. So don't work on all your ideas. And wait, really? Like nobody had any clue at the time, but he just saw the future, and that ended up being right. That's essentially the recipe for ChatGPT. But I at least got, went back to my advisor and said, hey, there's this new thing called generative unsupervised learning. Let's go and study it. And then we taught a class at Berkeley on that, and I learned that myself, and I did more internships to like write more papers on that topic, and I combined the 2 together. That ended up being my thesis. So that was very essential. So when I got more into critical thinking, I started looking at startups that can, like potentially be new in AI.
Well, why, just to pause there, why look at startups? Why wouldn't you have just stayed at a big tech company? You were at Google, you were at DeepMind, you were at OpenAI. What was the kernel of it that made you decide, I'm going to start my own thing instead of keep on with one of these big tech companies?
So I did my PhD at Berkeley, pretty close to Silicon Valley. I'm definitely not like making it up. Like I really thought that TV show Silicon Valley was pretty cool.
Oh no!
Everybody was watching it around me, and then I thought it was very funny. But then someone actually told me, "Hey, look, I know you're making jokes about the show all the time, but realize that some people might take it personally because it's actually pretty true. It's not just like a humorous show. Like a lot of people were very depressed watching it because it reflects Silicon Valley in almost a brutal way." But I think that whole idea of like starting something from scratch and getting in the hands of users was very attractive. And the particular idea in that TV show that was explored was around lossless compression, which is very directly tied to generative AI, because if they also talk a lot about how you can use neural nets to do it.
That's right.
So that was actually the idea I really wanted to start up first on, like lossless compression with generative models, except nobody wanted to do it with me. And then COVID happened. So I just, and Ilya told me to come to OpenAI and work there. And it wasn't very clear where AI was clearly heading to, like a product phase. It was still pretty research oriented. But then like products like GitHub Copilot started spinning out from OpenAI and Microsoft. And it was like first real time when I could use it myself. Like I knew AI is already being applied in industry, like Facebook's recommender systems, or like Google's search was using, all this link ranking. They were all using a lot of neural nets, but you couldn't viscerally feel it. I think you started feeling it more when you used it yourself. And GitHub Copilot was this AI that would just autocomplete your code when you're writing code in your editor right there. So when you feel the AI, there's this whole phrase, feel the AGI or feel the AI, I think you start to realize, okay, now is the moment to try to start a company and you kind of have to be at the right place at the right time. We were very lucky to be that, where AI was just beginning to work. It was not fully working yet, that it would be too late. And so if we assemble a really great group of people and gather a little bit of funding and get the right seed idea, we could potentially build a product and benefit from all the advances that happen in AI and all the new investments that are going to come in. So that's kind of how Perplexity was started in August of 2022.
Wow, cool. Just as a little aside, Mike Judge, who is the producer of Silicon Valley, was looking for advisors, and I happen to be an advisor on season 1 of
cool.
that show. So that's a little.
Are you in the show?
No, no. But he just wanted Silicon Valley gossip in order to satirize,
Okay.
And I was the apparently willing provider. But okay, so you started this company, and how did you find your co-founders? How did you find your first investors? And it'd be interesting to kind of, as we transition from your academic background to the startup,
Yeah.
what parts of your academic upbringing influenced the company that you built today?
First of all, Dennis Yaras, he's a co-founder and CTO of Perplexity. I knew him from at least for a year or more before we started Perplexity.
From school or from?
Yeah. He didn't go to Berkeley, but he went to NYU, and he wrote the same paper as me, like one day apart. So
But who published first?
Technically, he did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, it was.
He became a very good hire then.
In the sense, like he actually gave us a heads up saying he's publishing it, because he had heard we were working on the same thing. So we actually rushed and pulled an all-nighter and got our paper out the next day.
Okay.
So that's how we got acquainted, and then he became a visiting student in my lab remotely because of COVID, and so we used to discuss a lot of ideas back then. So and then he knew Johnny, who overlapped with him at Quora, back when humans used to answer people's questions. Now AIs do that. So Quora was a platform where other people would come and answer your questions. And then it was assembled a great group of competitive programmers. And so they overlapped with each other there and worked on this thing called Quora Digest, which automatically picks the questions that are most relevant to you and sends it as an email, which I still get these days, and sometimes it's pretty useful even now. So Dennis was like, oh, Johnny's potentially leaving his job at Tower and looking for something to do in AI. So maybe we should.
Well, it's one thing to identify great people, but how did you wrest them from their fancy jobs and from their academic
in this case, we lucked out. He was actually looking to leave.
Okay.
So it was more like convincing him that we would be the right next step. Actually, he took a pretty bold bet because we had nothing, right?
This is Johnny or Dennis or both?
So Dennis decided to leave Meta.
Okay.
He felt like he had an urge to do a startup at least some point in his life. But once Dennis signed up, he said, okay, let's convince Johnny.
It's like a snowball.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
For Johnny, I think he was deciding between us and some other startup, and we had nothing. So I think he just took a bold bet. Like we were initially working on like using AIs to answer questions about data sets. Like if you had your employee salary database and you wanted to ask like how many people earn more than a certain amount, all this text to SQL, that's basically what we were working on. We had no idea if it had any market impact or business model. In fact, I still don't think it does, that particular idea. But the most important realization is that in a startup, when you have an initial group of people, the number one thing to do is just iterate and do something. I've seen many founders spend at least 6 months to a year in the idea maze, going around and around and not getting anywhere, and not knowing what it takes to actually ship something, get it in the hands of people, see them use it, learn from that, and then go and update your hypothesis about the world.
Right.
That's the right way to do it, at least in software. And so that really helped us. Like we got a lot of dopamine from watching others use it, and that was also how we raised funding from a good set of seed investors, where we would just show the demo. Like people would ask for a deck, I would just say, I don't know how to make decks. I still don't know how to make decks. I haven't made a deck in ages, actually. Only one deck I made was for our Series A funding. That was NEA's round, which I don't think the deck was great, but I somehow like convinced them.
Clearly was good enough.
But after that, I never made a deck. It was all like, I would, let me just do a demo for you and tell you what we want to get to.
Cool.
And that worked really well for our seed round. And especially what happened is we would scrape Twitter back when it was like available in the form of an API, and pre-Elon Musk CEO days. Now we would put that into a bunch of tables and let people ask any questions about Twitter. So when the existing search on Twitter never really worked, and suddenly you got something that worked, people really got the idea that, oh, large language models are really going to change search. It doesn't matter how exactly, but it's really going to happen. So that's how we attracted great seed investors, Elad Gil, Nat Friedman, Andre Karpathy, Jan LeCun, like Jeff Dean also. So a lot of people invested, and like that helped us go and recruit some really good engineers, founding engineers, who even if they didn't trust me as a founder or a CEO to like figure out things, they trusted the fact that, okay, a great group of people are putting money into this, and the co-founders are like very technical and great engineers. So like, wow, I probably won't get an opportunity to work in a team like this again. So they came in, and somehow we iterated, and launched the core idea that, okay, search itself, like the fundamental software, the king of all software, the one that's used for the most in the world, surface area and usage-wise, can be changed, where if people actually wanted to evolve search from typing in keywords to typing in questions or asking questions for your voice, and you just get an instant answer, and you want to trust what the answer of the AI is, whether true or not, through sources, which again comes from academia, because the first thing you're taught when you write a paper is don't just write whatever you want, like make sure you have a peer-reviewed citation to it. So we just applied that concept in the context of an LLM, and got it to work over a weekend hack project.
Weekend?
Yeah. I mean, by the way, like a lot of the infra was already built for doing this in a weekend. It's not like we literally started from no code to like launching it. But we could quickly iterate, had a Discord server and Slack bots, tried ourselves, saw our friends using it, and that ended up becoming Perplexity.
So I've heard you say many times that Perplexity is not competitive with Google. And I wonder if you could just help us explain that. It feels like if I want the answer to a question, there are substitutions.
Yeah.
So can you explain why you don't think you're competitive with Google?
So I think it's not competitive with Google in the sense that it's not going to take away the core Google search behavior. By the way, most of, like at least 1 to 2 billion searches a day are just like 1 or 2 words right now.
Yeah.
People just literally typing in. You go to trends.google.com, and you scroll down, instead of rising, you click the top. Most of the times it's just weather, Reddit, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, these one-word destinations. And people just type that on their Chrome search bar, and it goes to the first link, and then they go there.
But that's pretty magical, isn't it? Because Google's actually reading your mind. You have a query.
Yeah.
You're typing 1 or 2 words, and Google's proposition to you is we're going to be able to read your mind from those 1 or 2 words and give you exactly what you want in the first page.
Yeah. That's the user intent, like really recognizing, oh, the user wants like just quick information. So we're not necessarily going to like compete there. I mean, if we own the front end, then all those searches would go to us. But we're not there's nothing to improve there in terms of the experience, because Google's already doing a good job. But what they're not good at is answering questions. Like if you really wanted to know, okay, I'm actually going to Harvard today, and looks like it might rain. Like what is the best thing for me to wear? You're going to get a lot of links, but you're not going to get a synthesis of the information presented in each of them to give you a targeted answer to that question. Instead, what you would do before Perplexity was you would type in the weather, and then you would think about what to do, and then you would type in something else related to like, what is the best thing to wear for like rainy weather. You would read that, and then you would be doing all this cognitive work. Now the AI is doing it for you. And so it's much more intuitive way.
Are you actually comparing yourself to Google 1.0, if I could even call it that? Because today on Google search, of course, you can ask a natural language question. And
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
AI overview or the AI mode doesn't always work. Sometimes hallucinates, like the famous cheese sticking to the pizza thing. Definitely, they're improving it. The core problem there is they cannot make it work for every single question you ask because they lose a lot of link clicks, including simple things like finding the sports score. They're actually putting Ticketmaster ads right now because they need to make money.
Right.
And their global traffic on search is not actually increasing anymore. So the only way to juice more ad revenue out of search is to actually put more ads per query. So answers, direct answers, is completely misaligned with like showing more link ads.
Yes.
It's very hard to like make both these products work together. You need a new user interface, new experience, new front end, and in the user's mind, they don't want this clutter. You get like a knowledge panel, you get some ads, you get some links, you get some answer, you get some pictures. It's too much clutter on Google.
The thing that it does incentivize, however, is for the people who are putting the links up, they have more of an incentive, it's argued, that Google, to produce high quality, trustworthy information. There are some who say, Perplexity reduces those incentives because when you reformat and summarize, you provide less incentive for those original content creators to actually put something verifiable out there, the things that you actually cite to. And so how do you respond to that?
Yeah, so the number one thing is that we ensure that the sources are right there at the top. For any query related to news, we have a different UI that we call as a trending UI, where the news the source cards are even more prominent, that you can like literally click on them and they're very easy to click on. We're also like having a publisher program where we share revenue made on a query with the publishers. And by the way, this is something Google never did, is they make a lot of ad revenue. They tell publishers we're giving you traffic, but they don't share the ad revenue with the publishers. Instead, they make the publishers put another ad product called AdSense, which is putting ads all on the sites and the pop-ups and things like that, which is what like really frustrates the user from going to any site because they don't want to see all this clutter. They just came to the landing page to read the news. And if publishers can run that without putting ads on their side, they would get even more traffic. But Google doesn't want that, right? So I think we are trying to change the paradigm of even how the business model works here, where if we do put an ad like a suggested sponsored question and make a dollar on that query, we're going to share. We're not going to take all of it. We're going to share some of that with the content providers who will use the sources for that question. And I think that's a much more scalable way to like incentivize publishers to keep creating new content.
Okay, cool. What do people get most often wrong about Perplexity?
Well, there's this whole thing of this, this is a wrapper, it's so easy to build in a weekend. You can always build like a 80-20 or 70-30 version of a Perplexity-like clone in a weekend. That's due to two things. One is there's a lot of coding tools out there to like write code faster. And two is if we couldn't have done it in a weekend, like we would not even be here. So it makes sense. But the thing that people don't realize is after doing that first launch, we've done so much more work. We've worked on so many different verticals. We've built our own models. Today, if like every model provider stopped offering us models, we can still run the product in like very little degradation in quality for most of the questions that are being answered today. And then we have like building a big index of our own. We're investing in our own infrastructure to crawl the web. And then we're also having all these modern research agents that don't just quickly pull the top links and summarize, but actually do it sequentially like an agent and browsing the web and looking at links and figuring out the next plan, exposing the chain of thought. So there's a lot of work we've put into the product that makes it so complicated. Now the code base is so big that like if it is a wrapper, it's a really, really valuable wrapper.
Yeah. Why shouldn't Apple acquire you?
Well, it's more like, do we want to sell to Apple? That's the question to ask. And
if you were to put your mind into Tim Cook's mind or Apple's mind, do you think this would be a...
I mean, if I were to tell something to Tim Cook, I would say, let Apple Intelligence call Perplexity. We have our app on the App Store. We have on the Android OS, we have an assistant that can call other apps and play songs and videos and set reminders and send emails and make phone calls and all of that stuff already working. So if Apple Intelligence opens up developer access to more apps and it can call Perplexity, we would love to work together and make Siri actually work.
Okay, you heard it here first. Okay, you are a bidder for TikTok. Can you explain that? What is the logic behind bidding for TikTok?
Yeah, so we wrote this as our vision in a blog post on our website. The core idea is that people waste a lot of time on TikTok, and I think the feed can be more productive. That doesn't mean like taking away all the fun and like kind of turning a party into a library, but
could be a party still.
There's like a more healthy mix of like useful content and making sure misinformation can be handled with like things like community notes. We have an Ask Perplexity bot on X right now, which despite severe rate limits has grown a lot in usage, around 100 million impressions, and it's very clear that like the sort of social usage of AIs will increase, and AIs are even faster than humans fact-checking things. Like essentially because of Perplexity, fact-checking can be made as a software service now. You go to the web, you read all these things, you look at what the user is saying or the video, whatever the person is saying, take the transcript out of it, and add all the sources as additional footnotes to give people more context. So
you think it makes sense to buy TikTok because you can add footnotes? You can cite?
Yeah, you can add a lot of context. Community notes can be more natively part of the platform. And the search box on TikTok is how a lot of the next generation is searching the web. They're not using the web in the way like we use it. Like especially when checking out for restaurants, they don't actually go to Google Maps or Google. They just go to TikTok. And so a lot of searches of the next generation is going to the TikTok search bar. And so it makes sense for something like Perplexity to be natively part of it. And so rebuild the algorithm, make it more productive, make sure misinformation is handled with something like community notes, and build a better search experience natively with TikTok, and give more competition to Google this way.
Cool. What beliefs did you have when you were an academic that you no longer have as a very prominent CEO? And then we'll discuss the future, and then we'll open up for audience questions.
As an academic, I really thought that it's important to spend a lot of time thinking about the idea, and now I believe more in like action produces information. But some of the things are still staying the same. So even in academia, most people don't have the discipline to try small-scale experiments. They just want to like come up with this grand idea on a whiteboard and then run it, and then it all works, and you write a paper. Because that's how like Hollywood makes movies about academics, like how you see the Beautiful Mind movie. He gets.
Is that your favorite movie about an academic?
That's one of my favorite movies. There's also the movie on Stephen Hawking. So like it's a lot of movies have been made where you just knock on the professor's door once you have the idea, and then you've solved.
Not Good Will Hunting?
Good Will Hunting is also amazing.
Okay.
So the thing is like what is actually works in practice is several small-scale experiments iteratively done, and I think that's the same even in the startup world. Even for Perplexity, let's say, like we're working on so many different projects. Nobody knows like what's really gonna like pick up in usage, and even if something immediately doesn't pick up, it might not be a failure. So looking for the right signals and actually having that critical thinking to create the hypothesis test is something that is very academic in nature. So there's something deeply academic about doing a startup too.
Okay. Just continuing with this movie theme, today in AI, you have doomers, you have accelerationists and techno-utopians. Where do you lie on this spectrum? Are we headed for Avengers Age of Ultron, or the first, I guess, 2/3 of the movie Her?
I mean, I'm definitely like more pro acceleration. Like I hope we end up with a utopian outcome. I don't know exactly like what'll happen. My sense is that like if we end up with an outcome where AI feels like the iPhone, where like you know the same phone is being used by the president or someone here in this room, and so the same kind of AI
Signals available on that.
Indeed. So hopefully secure enough. So if we can use that, if the best AI or like almost the best in class AI is widely accessible, I think we will not end up with any crazy outcomes. But if there's an AI that needs an insane amount of compute to use, and like only few people control it, that could lead to some terrible outcomes.
Do you think as the models commoditize, we're headed to a monopolistic vision like that, or and kind of an oligopolistic vision where you have several players that somehow keep each other in check and
Yeah,
somehow
so
preserve?
open source is the only thing that can keep people in check here, and that's been the trend in the last year. Is anytime one or two of these closed labs have launched a great model, people always freaked out, like what's going to happen if these two labs essentially control the future of AI. And then someone open source just drops a model that's as good and just free. Anybody can take it, download it, host it themselves, fine tune it, distill it, make it smaller. All these things are possible. And credit to like DeepSeek, you know, they did a tremendous job at like launching a model that's not just like a traditional open source model, an open source reasoning model, and reasoning is considered the next frontier in AI. So that's all being made available, and it's not just the model, they're writing technical papers detailing how they got there, so someone can actually replicate the science too. So I'm not too worried as long as people keep publishing open and open source like still a thing. I'm not too worried about like ending up in this monopoly or oligopoly scenarios.
Okay, and then just one more question before we get to the audience, which is, you know, we are, I guess, for a lay audience, so I'm going to ask you to restrain the inner PhD. After Transformers, what do you think, for a lay audience again, are the most promising frontiers where you would expect the next breakthroughs to come?
You mean architecturally? I don't know. Like there's this thing called state space models and a hybrid of like convolution type architectures and transformers that some people have tried. I would just assume that like those things will lead to some gains, but the big labs will still copy it, like change some of the existing architectures. I think the real breakthrough could potentially come from like figuring out extremely long context. So currently all the AIs are doing something called the retrieval augmented generation, including Perplexity. It's called RAG, where the model itself doesn't have the full context to answer your question. And so it pulls the relevant context from some data store, be it the web index or some other data index, and puts it into the prompt and then answers your question. But your life, like say 10 years of your life, all the context in it cannot be compressed that easily. And what if you wanted to chat with an AI in the same way we chat with a friend that you've known for a decade, where you don't have to keep starting new chats and to talk about different things. It's all like one single stream of chat. I think that's very hard to do right now. So figuring out extremely long context, like million or 10 million tokens or even infinite tokens, with like what is the right structure to store all the memories is still an open problem. And it could still be a transformer-based solution for that, but no one's really figured it out.
Great. Okay, with that, let's do some audience questions. So we have people with mics right there and right there. So just raise your hand and okay, great.
Hi there, thanks so much for coming. My question's about compute and thinking about the limitations of, particularly NVIDIA's compute and the GPU. And I know that Perplexity, for instance, with Sonar, has started using Cerebras. Can you speak to what you think we need in the compute ecosystem right now, in the chip ecosystem, for companies like Perplexity to scale?
Yeah. I still think we are pretty compute constrained as a field, based on what people like OpenAI and Grok and all these companies are saying, which is they're running out of GPUs to serve. The requests are more than what they can serve. Even for Perplexity, like when we brought in DeepSeek onto ourselves and things like deep research, we ran out of compute pretty quickly, and we had to work with other people to help us there. And the cost per query is actually going up. And so we need more compute to figure out ways to reduce the cost temporarily. And then that will lead to less compute needed to serve the same product, but then more people will be using it, or more usage will be there per user. So I still see it as increasing demand for compute in the next year or two, for sure. That's how it seems like to me. As for NVIDIA versus Cerebras, I think NVIDIA is a more robust, resilient hardware that can serve any kind of model, be it a sparse mixture of experts model or a dense model like the Llama. Cerebras is more suited for the dense models right now. They still have a lot of work to do, but it's definitely very interesting that at an inference level you can do a lot more, make your product go a lot faster if you have specialized chips for transformer inference.
Okay, do we have another question? Yes, how about, I can't really, okay, is there someone over there? Oh, do you have one over there? Okay, great.
Hi. So my question is about the ethical AI. So recently, Elon Musk launched his own AI system called Grok, and he says that it is the most open and most blunt AI system. So my question is there's major companies, they are having own AI, and how we are ensuring that these companies are not going to handle or take over the narrative of the whole domain, whole public, kind of they have their own agenda. Like Elon Musk, he can manipulate the whole Twitter or anything, something like this. About the ethical AI, how you ensure that not a single party or single company control the whole AI narrative.
Sorry, could you?
I have to admit that I did not fully grasp it. Do you want to restate your question perhaps more concisely?
Okay. So recently, there's companies, they are launching their own AI. And recently, Elon Musk launched his own Grok AI, right? And it is said that it is most blunt, it is most honest AI ever. So how can we ensure that not a single company take over the whole AI narrative, they are controlling the opinion of public?
So your question is how can we avoid a monopoly where this is one AI everybody uses? I think open source is the best way to ensure that, because what open source essentially does is nobody can charge an insane amount for any AI, as long as the open source model is as good or even better than the closed lab AIs. As for having an honest AI, I think the right solution is what Perplexity did. In fact, I see that as one of the major contributions of Perplexity is truly having a whether it's hacky or principal solution doesn't matter, but the best way for people to ensure they can still verify and trust what the AI says is give sources and expose the chain of thought. So we have both of these in our products. So as long as we push that sort of UI and UX for everybody, and if that's what people want, others also adopt the same thing. You can see other AI chatbots are also adopting sources, are also exposing the chain of thought. So that way, nobody can really monopolize this or run the UX in a way that's non-transparent. So you need other products like ours, open source models, and plenty of players, a lot of well-funded players in the ecosystem right now that it's very unlikely we end up in a scenario like that.
Okay, maybe something from this side of the room. Who's got a question here? Yes, just.
Hi, Aravind. Thanks for the wonderful panel. So my question is, SEO has been a billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar industry for the past 2 decades. How do you see it evolving with products like you're building?
SEO?
Yep.
I think there'll be less need to do SEO going forward. especially in products like deep research where it's spending so much time thinking about stuff and can even literally have a user system prompt that's there where ignore content that feels low quality and like just designed to hack the search engine and truly think about like what I want. I think SEO will definitely not be able to fight such a system. I would even say SEO only existed so far because the amount of compute applied per search query is very little, right? Like you literally do the traditional ranking compute and then you render the ranked order list. But in AI, like you can actually make the LLM think even longer, go through a whole chain of thought, iterative search. So SEO won't be able to fight that. The best, essentially SEO needs a black box of like, oh, this is potentially how the answer is going to be, and so I'm going to like hack my content for that. But if the black box compute is so expensive, it's very hard for you to do.
I think we have a question down here in the front row.
Thanks. I just wanted to ask, to what extent are your plans shaped or perhaps even constrained by the cost of power, electricity? I mean, we're already hearing companies like Microsoft actually wanting their own nuclear power plants, and that's the level of energy apparently it's going to take to do a lot of this stuff. What is that going to do to shape the future of AI?
I think it's definitely a cause for concern right now. Like, can we just keep having more data centers? We are compute constrained right now, and compute is essentially power constrained. My hope is that like two things happen. One is the next generation of chips, the Blackwell chips, are going to be more compact. So you probably don't need as many server racks as right now because each chip will have more compute packed into it. So that'll make it more dense, and that'll be more power efficient also. And the second thing is distillation. There's this concept in AI called distillation, where you can take a very expensive model and make it smaller by taking its intelligence and cloning it, teaching a smaller model to behave the same way as the larger model. So that'll reduce the compute cost too. So together with more compact chips and like smaller models, I think we can slowly bring down the power and like compute requirements to serve the same product today.
Okay, let's see. Oh, how about you and right there? Yes. Oh, do you want to get a mic? One's coming behind you.
Hi, thank you so much for your talk, and I actually enjoyed also your conversation last summer with Lex Freeman. I just want to ask you a question. So you talked on conversation with Lex Freeman about focus, and I want to ask, what are the key strategic bets Perplexity is making in the next 1 to 3 years, and what are some areas you've consciously decided not to prioritize to maintain that focus?
Okay. I think like the key, like we don't think 3 years ahead. I think mainly because AI is so fast moving and fast changing that it's kind of pointless to plan for the next 3 years from now.
Just out of curiosity, what is your time scale that you do think ahead in AI?
We still do like quarterly planning.
Quarterly?
Yeah.
Okay. Because you believe 2 quarters out, you're not going to be able to predict the future enough to run your business.
Yeah.
That's a big statement.
Definitely, I'm not able to, and I don't think others are either. Mm-hmm. Because okay, like one thing I'll admit, like this is the end of the quarter. The first 3 months this year have moved faster than the last 2 years for me. Like the level of changes. Nobody saw DeepSeek coming. Mm-hmm. Nobody saw things like deep research happening this fast. Nobody saw things like agents at least like slowly beginning to work. And I think all of this is happening so fast that like you got to keep updating your mind on like what is the right things to do. That said, we have a very clear plan on like expanding the utility of Perplexity and all the things that common people search for, which we call as the verticals of structured answers, like going beyond a wall of text. We don't want to just give you a textual response for queries related to weather or sports or finance or shopping or travel or local. Like this needs its own interactive, visual, structured experience, and needs an answer that's like very like high quality and like high relevance. And so we're working on all these challenges to make our product like even better. And so that will make the product not just useful for like informational queries that are related to knowledge and research, but also like day-to-day life use cases, commercial use cases. And I think that'll set us up well for like the next generation where like people are going to transact natively. They're going to like just do their research on like what products to buy or hotels to stay. And once they get it very well structured in an answer, they can just buy the stuff right there. So that's going to also change the future of business models in the internet. So we're working on that. We're working on our browser, which is going to come out very soon, where there's going to be more agent-like searches over your own personal data, not just the web, your calendar, your emails, your past browsing history, your workspace tools like Slack or Notion. All of that will be context for Perplexity to answer questions about you, learn more about you, and like get more personalized to you. So we're working on all these like pretty hard problems, so those were the calls we made to prioritize. As for deprioritize, I think like we've done many projects that sometimes didn't pan out the way we wanted, and we learned from it and like iterate on it. So we had an experiment to like grow our traffic through SEO, through this project called Perplexity Pages, but Google obviously like deranked a lot of our content. Not clear for what reasons, but you could guess why. But like we learned from that and we quickly adapted it. So now Pages became part of another project we are doing called Perplexity Discover Feed, which is our version of like giving you content even without you asking for a question. Because people are curious, but they don't always know how to channelize that by typing in a prompt. It's more work. So what if Perplexity does that work for you, where we go and generate like 10 or 20 queries on your behalf and package it into like really visually readable content and give it to you right there. So that uses all the stuff we built for Pages. So we tend to be like pretty adaptive. Like nothing is a failure or anything in Perplexity. It's always like a learning signal, and like we take that and like try to adapt the product more.
I think we have room for one more question. I see right behind you there. All right.
Hi, hello. So you've been talking a lot about compute resources, and obviously, I mean, we keep seeing better and better GPUs, and obviously, companies are trying to, I mean, as they mentioned, right, like nuclear power. What do you think about exploring some sort of other technologies? I know that quantum computing, for example, is in very early stages, but do you think that potentially it could be worth it, to explore other technologies to train models and potentially, I don't know, quantum computing?
I think it's still very early. The breakthroughs that have happened, a lot of noise that's been generated in quantum recently have been more around like very academic benchmarks. Oh, like can I get this type of computation to run on the quantum computer, and without any errors. The error tolerance was the recent breakthrough that Google announced, but that's still on a class of computations that are very small academic benchmarks and nothing of practical relevance yet. So for a product company like ours that's more focused on just innovating on the core user experience, investing our energy and effort into something that's 5, maybe 10 years down the line is not the right decision right now. But I think it makes sense for the big tech companies to have teams working on this.
Okay, to close it out, are you good with a few rapid-fire questions?
Sure.
Okay, do you watch the television show Succession?
Yeah, I watched it.
Which Roy sibling would you choose to run Perplexity?
Probably Shiv.
And why? Sorry, I said he was a rapid fire, but quickly.
I think she's the most composed out of the.
It's a low bar, but with those two others. But okay, long or short Google?
Just buy the S&P 500. That's my advice.
Very diplomatic. Okay, describe your management style in just one emoji.
Emoji.
I can tell already it's not the exploding head, is it?
No. Poker face?
Okay, good one. What's the most surprising app that we would find on your phone right now?
Surprising app.
Yeah.
As in like an app that not many people have?
No, just whatever you think people would think, oh, Aravind has that on his phone?
Can I ask?
Oh, you're actually going to do it? Okay. Can we get a close-up shot?
Surprising app. Let's see.
You're a very predictable person, I think.
Well, I have a lot of unread messages, but that's not surprising, I guess. Yeah,
Just pick one.
It's not rapid fire.
All right.
I don't know. I think like my phone is pretty. Maybe I can tell you what app I don't use that a lot of people. I don't have Facebook. I don't have Messenger.
Okay.
I don't have a Facebook account, and I kind of recommend this.
So short meta, in other words.
No,
okay.
no.
What motivational cliche do you secretly say to yourself in your head to keep you going?
I think like there's this thing, you know. I know he's a very controversial guy now, but I still think there's something very respect-worthy about what he said years ago, Elon Musk, where there's an interview, 60 Minutes interview with him, and someone asked him like, why didn't you give up, you know, when the third rocket failed? And he said, I don't ever give up. I would have to be dead or incapacitated. And I think there's something very powerful there that all entrepreneurs should learn, which is it's only over when you think it's over. And until then, you can always figure out a way. No matter how hard it feels at that moment, you can. It's really only over when you give up.
That's a good one.
And so that's what I personally use to motivate myself.
That's a great one. And what's scarier, AI hallucination or VC questions?
VC questions.
Okay, well, before our program ends, I want to thank our two sponsors, JP Morgan and Gunderson Detmer, the very best in the business, Jesse Bardo, Laura Stoffel. Thank you so much for providing support for this event. And just to soft close, Aravind, we have a bunch of very young people in the audience here who are just beginning their journeys. And so just to close, can you tell us what has become clearer to you as you have aged? Not to say that you're aged, but just as that you've just simply aged. What's become clearer to you?
I've definitely aged a lot last 2 years. So I think what's become clear is like keep your composure. Stress is going to be there if you're doing a company, but it's never as good as it seems like at that moment. It's never as bad as it seems like at that moment. So deeply internalize this. Like when some things are going really well, like don't get too far ahead and just constantly, you know, like attend parties, like stay in the moment and all that. Like be somewhat paranoid when things are going too well, and also don't be too stressed out and you know, demotivated when things are not going well.
I love that. Party on is your message. Very appropriate for Harvard Business School. Aravind, thank you so much for being with us.
Cool. Thank you so much, Patrick.